Good afternoon, or in some cases, good morning. Thank you for joining us. And for those of you that are joining us today, that's great. I know there's been a number that have signed up, and we are going to also have people that join us after the fact that'll get this recording. Everybody will get the recording, and that'll be sent out to you in the next couple of days. So if you're listening to this after the session, feel free to reach out. I'll leave my email at the end of this, and happy to answer any questions. And we'll also welcome any questions through today. Just put them in the Q&A, and we're happy to discuss those at the end. I welcome two colleagues, Kit, who joins us from our professional graduate program area, and Christina, who joins us from our Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Impact. So welcome to both of you. So today we want to talk about this idea of standing out in this field that we were talking about within the impact analysis. And again, any questions as we're going through it, happy to hear those. First, let's begin and acknowledge that Queen's University, Smith School of Business, and the studio that we're in, facilities here in Kingston, are all situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. And there's also significant Métis community, and there are First Peoples from other nations across Turtle Island present today. We're grateful, as always, to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. So welcome to Queen's University, welcome to the Smith School of Business, and welcome to this program, the Certificate in Professional Impact Analysis. And we're going to go through in a fairly quick format. We've got about 30 minutes, respectful and mindful of your time. And as I say, happy to answer questions either following or after the fact, and I'll leave my email. Just a reminder, though, we've got two classes, two sessions that take place this year. It's not too late to apply and be a part of the January program, which will be sending out the lectures, and I'll explain the format as it's not an in-person approach. It's very much a virtual approach, and we've got recorded lectures that we'll send out. That's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And it's not too late to apply for and be a part of the January to June session. And we've also got another session in July to December, which again, all of the information we're covering today applies to both of those sessions. My name is Glenn Hollis. I've been a part of the program since its inception in the business school here, and delighted to join you. I've also been part of our MBA program in the past, over the last 5 years, as part of the Queen's University Smith School of Business. So what's the story here? Well, we created this program with intent, and really the thought was great brands, think companies, organizations, what have you, have this sense of a greater purpose, this idea of a greater social good. And these leaders, and that includes you as part of that, think of these brands and these organizations and companies and groups that you're a part of, and they really put their money and their energy where their heart and their head is in terms of impact programs, impact investments. And it's all designed around this idea of doing good. And again, I'll ask you to think back in your own world of those projects that you're a part of, or your company is a part of your organization. And we know empirically that great brands that have this greater sense of social purpose command a higher value, they enjoy more loyalty, they've got a strong and productive workforce, they stand out, and that's a fact. So this idea of doing good is critical. Doing more good for an organization is good for the world, and it's something that we want to talk about. How do we measure in order to do more good? And this program with the mission of enabling leaders to measure good so they can do more good. And that's pretty much the approach that we've got today. And we do that with evidence. And that's the whole purpose of this, is to really understand how do we measure good so that we can do more good. And it's the only program, certainly in Canada. There is one other program at Oxford University in the UK, but it's not as in-depth as this. And again, we're going to talk about things and provide you tools and templates and approaches where you can lead and measure good. So this is about looking at using evidence. And we'll talk about this on a parallel of other things that you do within your organization when it comes to collecting evidence as you measure the progress of your organization. We've taken that same approach when it comes to impact. So there's two ways to think about impact projects and this idea of good. And what is really, think corporate social responsibility or investments or community efforts, depending on whether you're in a for-profit company, not-for-profit, an NGO, a government. And those are things where you can think about the betterment of society, the betterment of your community. There's also projects that fall into the impact space around business. And those include, think of a steel company that may decide that they want to produce green steel because their customers are asking for it. So how do you measure that? Two areas that you want to measure it on. One is it going to be profitable for the company? But think about the other side. How is it going to benefit society, community, the environment, the world? And we measure that in things like carbon offsets or other ways that we'll look at evidence. So there's other examples that I'll go through in terms of projects that you're going to be a part of, case studies. And the goal of that is to really help you understand, how do I measure impact? The big question is, how do you measure it, but why would you want to measure it? So organizations track a whole bunch of things: profitability, productivity, customer satisfaction, member satisfaction, whatever it might be. And they report these, to stakeholders. And you do it with the rigor and the discipline with tools like accounting. Well, we want to go about the same approach when it comes to measuring impact. And really, the good news here is you can do that. And the faculty that you're going to meet with and be a part of is really those folks that have designed tools and templates and approaches and education and content to help you do that. So you'll have the rigor and discipline to know how to go about doing that. This idea of the return on investment of a particular project. So when we think of why it's important, well, there's more and more stakeholders demanding rigor, and they want to understand, certainly, if we're going to put money into something, and all different kinds of investment, money or time or energy, how do we measure that? And there is a massive desire to know if you're moving the needle. Are you doing good? If you've set out to do good with a particular project or investment, how are we going to measure that so that we can understand, do we want to continue it? Do we want to do more of it, less of it, stop, something else? So it's important that we bring tools and approaches forward so that we can understand how best to do that. So how do we measure it? Well, we want to build leaders that understand how to do it through impact analysis. And that's the thrust of the certification as a professional impact analyst. You're going to learn three key areas. There's three modules I'll go into in some detail, but really it's impact foundations, this idea of defining the impact of organizations. So what are those things that you do on a daily basis? And it could be anything that the company's involved in. And then the idea of impact accounting, quantifying your footprint. How do we go about measuring that? And then finally, evaluating and learning, and critically reporting, managing, sharing the message and the story of impact with your stakeholders that we talked about, that are really looking at a deeper understanding of how we're doing beyond simply, the investment is carrying through in this time period and we want to do it again. Well, why do we want to do it again? And that's really the focus of this program. So in comparison, if you think of it in this way, financial accounting and management has a main objective of making better decisions. And it really is a secondary compliance and reporting initiative or objective. No different when it comes to impact. We want to arm you with those same similar approaches and the same rigor for social impact efforts, reporting social impact right alongside financial returns, which are getting more and more asked for. And also better decision-making, better reporting, and then stakeholder satisfaction. And that is the focus of this rigor and transparency around the certificate in professional impact analysis. So who can benefit? Leaders like you, choosing how to define and really understand how to quantify and measure impact, how to report it, how to satisfy stakeholders that are asking for it. And we're really looking at change makers within organization, leaders of tomorrow. We know this is an exploding area of business and other organizations that may not be in the for-profit space. We've been doing this for years with not-for-profit and NGOs, and there's ample opportunity to only continue that. But there's also an increasing desire and need in the for-profit space. So we've melded the two. And that's why we brought this program into the business school. We're not going to forget about NGOs and government at all different levels and other organizations, philanthropy, charities, but also understanding how do we do it in the for-profit companies. Both can benefit from this program. So let me talk a little bit about content and delivery approach. I want to go into just some detail on that. And again, throw in any questions that you've got. Happy to answer those as we're going through this. So 3 modules. This program takes place over 6 months, either January to June, and I say it's not too late for the January program, or July to December. Each one of those programs, each one of those cohorts, those 2 times we run it, is made up of 3 modules. Everything is recorded and online, and the intent of this is to be maximum flexibility and virtual. So we've got 3 modules. Each of the modules, as I mentioned, those 3 things, and I'll go into some detail about the content in each of those, but each module is made up of 4 3-hour lectures. And then at the end of those lectures, you're going to have a quiz that is, again, take home online, etc. And then following those 4 lectures is going to be a day, virtual, but it's going to be a live day called a capstone day. And in that capstone day, you meet with your other colleagues that we've got in the program, you meet with your coaches, you meet with your faculty, and you go through cases to really bring to life and anchor the content that you've learned over the last several weeks in those 4 lectures. You do that again in the next 2 other lectures or 2 other modules. So 3 modules, and at the end of each of those, or at the end of those 3 modules, you're going to have an exam that allows you to be certified as a professional impact analyst. And it's based on the content and the quizzes that you've consumed over those 6 months. So designed to be maximum flexibility, designed to be, easily digestible content, rewatch the videos, and the opportunity to also join with the faculty during coffee chat sessions and Q&A sessions where you can talk about the content. So our faculty is very well experienced. We've got Dr. Murray, and Elspeth has been involved with the business school for many, many years. She is a strategy professor. She is the leader of the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Impact, and she's been involved with social impact for many, many years. She was also formerly the head of the professional graduate program, running all of the MBA programs, Masters of International Business, Masters of Finance, etc. And we've got 2 other professors that have been running this program for many years, and we joined forces with them to bring it into the business school. Dr. Kashi, Bauman Kashi, is an economics professor, and Dr. Chris Cotton is also an economics professor. All 3 of them are at Queen's, and again, just a great group that have deep experience in looking at this idea of doing good, measuring good, and creating the rigor and discipline and transparency around understanding impact. So the program itself is $7,500 plus tax, and we've designed this after conversations with students where they're interested in spreading the payments out over the 6 months. So we've got modules that you can pay for as you go. $2,500 per module plus tax. There's a tax credit that's issued, a T2202. It is tax deductible, but this includes all of the content, materials, the 3 capstone days, each one of those following the module lectures, includes all of the team coaching, includes access to and conversations with faculty, and includes certification from the university, from the business school, as a professional impact analyst. So again, happy to answer any questions about that, but we're delighted. The group that we've lined up for this January, our plan is to have 25 in each of the cohorts. We want to keep it intentionally small, intimate. We're going to create networking opportunities as well for the students. So let me talk a little bit about the 3 areas in a little bit more detail. So the first module, those 4 lectures over 6 weeks, Impact Foundations is designed to give you an overview of the concept of impact, different dimensions, the benefits and costs to companies, to organizations, assessing and understanding how to define it, how to really look at existing evidence, and then also cases and examples you're going to use within that to bring it to life. And the goal of this is to create, obviously a base. And you're also going to really understand tools and templates, justifying the need for rigorous impact analysis, quantifying impact and analysis when we look at things like evidence, gender, social inclusion, environment, financial inclusion, etc. So you'll get many tools and templates as a part of this. And that's the design of this, is to create that. The second module is called impact accounting. And again, I'll talk about what we're looking at for this program when it comes to the session itself. But it really is conducting impact analysis, a toolbox that creates the necessary enablement to understand, how do I want to measure? What are the impact and policies and organizations? How do we want to report it? And we want to conduct tools and create tools that allow you to measure value for money, cost analysis, cost benefit, and you want to use that, and you will use that to estimate, report, alternatives to decision making. And this is an important piece as we look at one of the modules. The other area, and the third module, is evaluating and learning. And this really, in a nutshell, is mastering impact evaluation, measuring, reporting, improving the design of a particular project that you're undertaking, and really looking at the effectiveness now and in the future. How do we monitor and track that? And really, we're measuring and monitoring, those critical elements, those key KPIs, quantitative, qualitative elements, a mixture of both, evidence-based. And it really is to create the best analysis and best practices, to look at a quali-quant mix, a qualitative and quantitative mix. And it really is to understand the ethics of doing that. The critical piece of this is to understand, how do I report it? How do we create a story around this, a narrative, so that we can share with those demanding stakeholders about how best to help them understand the good that we're doing so we can do more good. And those are really important elements. So cases, individual studies that'll be a part of this, examples are all part of each of the three modules intentionally, pulling in different areas of for-profit, not-for-profit. We're going to have many, many guest speakers that'll be a part of this as well. And you're going to get a toolbox, a toolkit that will help you become the leader in this space within your organization. So we're pretty excited about the format of this. Now, one of the questions I know we've had in the past is this math? Is this accounting? And the quick answer is no. It's not about math. It's about understanding ideas, knowing how to think about cost benefit, what needs to be included as you gather evidence about the projects and programs that you're a part of. Looking at data, yeah, for sure, that's a part of it. But it really is looking at evidence, and how do we use those as proxies, as measures, as accuracy when it comes to understanding how to measure. It rewards ideas and not math. As Dr. Cotton says, at the end of the day, those who come in uncomfortable with economics and math will leave comfortable with looking at and thinking about the numbers and analysis as it relates to measuring impact. So very practical application of that. Students are not expected to be math savvy, and it's widely accessible intentionally. So let me just go through just a few cases. And again, I'm not going to go into detail or depth. As I say, we wanted to give you a quick overview of this program, and happy to answer questions from the group as well. And also to talk more about it for those that are interested in signing up. So examples of cases that you'll look at. So as a certified professional impact analyst, you'll understand things like switching to social plastic. So Coke was looking at, we've got this approach to production for our bottling. If we want to move to recycled plastic, is it socially justifiable? How do we measure that? Is it financially viable? How do we measure that? And is it feasible to scale out? And those are the things that they were interested in. You'll talk about those case studies. RBC, reporting on social investment, the return on social investment. What is a defensible methodology when we look at our approach to social investment, our ESG stocks? What additional data is needed? How do we provide this narrative, this story around what we're doing? Tourmaline Oil, they wanted to switch They were looking at the cost-benefit analysis of switching to natural gas for their production machinery. This is an oil company. What's the impact on the greenhouse gas emissions, and what's the net financial and economic impact? And again, evidence, rigor, discipline, transparency. World Health Organization and International Finance Corp, they were advocating for investments in food safety. How do we measure those improvements? What does it cost? And what's the value of the benefits from a health and a trade standpoint as they look to apply that globally in different cultures, different countries around the world? And that for them was an extremely important thing, to gather evidence, understand how to measure it. And you can clearly see this idea of doing good to be able to do more good. And they wanted to have that solid foundation to understand how to tell the story about, yeah, this is the direction we're headed in. This is why it's good for this particular country, this culture. Tim Hortons Children's Foundation. I was involved with Tim Hortons Children's Foundation through my work in the past. And one of the areas that we worked in was the foundation itself, the Children's Foundation. Should we invest more money into a camp? How do we measure that? Should we draw more? How do we draw the funds from rent, royalty, and advertising from our franchisees to fund the camp? Are our customers asking for it? Are we able to say, will you help fund the camps? So these are the measures that were critical to understand. And then also, if it isn't the camp, where else do we want to invest money as far as doing good? Is it in Timbits Hockey? Is it in Smile Cookie? Is it in other activities that we're involved with in different communities? On a business side, Tim Hortons is also interested in looking at selling fair trade coffee versus not selling fair trade coffee versus a proprietary coffee partnership program. And we did a deep and exhaustive measure into this to look at, do we simply want to follow what Starbucks has done, fair trade coffee, where farmers must invest into this fair trade system and then sell their coffee at a fixed price to the fair trade organization? Or do we want to empower farmers, small hectare farmers in countries like Brazil? And do we want to empower them to understand how to plant better crops, service and harvest better crops, get a higher yield, create education programs for their children, get the most they can for their coffee? And the benefit to Tim Hortons was looking at getting and securing higher quality coffee. Things like fair hiring practices, or also looking at the cost benefit analysis, this idea of an investment where we could sustain distribution, our supply chain, converting trucks from gas to propane or to electric or something along that line. What is the trade-off? Is that a good thing? Is it a good thing for the company? Is it a good thing for the environment? Ocean Steel, one of our MBA students who I talked to about this program, the Ocean Steel was looking at creating steel that had a strong green footprint. Production of it was produced in a way that was more beneficial to the environment. Now our customers are asking for that. What's the benefit of that? And we've also got this measure of, is it good for the world? And that's the two different ways you can think about measuring. So when we talk about who should attend the CPIA program, it is as I say, it's a growing area of business and other non-profit organizations, leaders of tomorrow who want to make a difference. And it's really talking to parts of a business or an organization that invest in projects, and it could be the everyday actions of things that they do. It's our mantra, it's our mandate. Or it could be about those side projects that companies do because they want to have a deeper sense of corporate social responsibility. It's a growing area. We know there's more and more organizations that are investing in this space, and there's more and more demand to understand how do we want to measure. So the Chief Impact Officer of tomorrow will need the foundation of knowledge to understand relevant frameworks, measuring, managing, reporting, and delivering the news, the reports to the stakeholders. And this is something that we ensure that we arm you with as part of the program, and something that we're pretty excited about having put together. So we're coming to the end of the session. And again, I'll leave this up, but anything that you want to look at, we've got a very in-depth site, and I encourage you to go to that. There's also an opportunity to apply, join the program. It's not too late for January. If those of you are interested in the July to December session, happy to talk to you. My email's up there, and feel free to reach out directly to me for sure. So let me just look if there's any questions. And again, I know we've designed this so that we've hit on questions that have come up in the past, things like, is it too mathy? Or what is the format? How does it break down into each of the sessions? One of the questions we have in terms of any discounts or scholarship opportunities. We don't have any scholarship opportunities designed in the program right now. We've intentionally priced it as a very accessible approach. I mean, it is 3 1.5 unit business courses in each of the modules. And it, again, is intentionally spread out over the 6 months where you can pay in each of the modules. So it's not all lump sum up at front. We've also put into place a multiples discount. So I've got 2 organizations that we've signed up along with the other individual students for this January session. And those 2 groups have brought 3 people to the program. And we do offer a discount of $1,500 off of the cost. So it then becomes, if you've got 3 or more from an organization that want to be a part of the program, we are offering that at $6,000 for the program itself. So delighted to answer any other questions. I thank you for your time. I thank you to Kit and to Christina for being a part of this. And as I say, happy to answer any questions one-on-one. And we'd love you to be a part of the program. And it's not too late for January. And again, happy to talk about the January to June or the July to December session. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your interest in this program. All the best.